Hi, I'm Adele Sinclair from Wellness at Work. Today I'm talking with an expert on how to build high-performing teams. One of the real challenges around working in today's modern workplaces is working within teams. And there can be real delights in working in a high-performing and really positive team, and real challenges in working with a team that's not working so well. So I'm really pleased to be able to welcome today Marcia Ryan. She's an expert in learning and development. She's a Master of Applied Positive Psychology, and her area of expertise is around collaborative teams, how to build collaboration, how to build engagement, cohesion, and build a team environment that's really positive to work in. Welcome, Marcia.
Hi Adele, it's great to be here.
So as I just mentioned, teams are a real challenge in the workplace, or they can be at least. They can be a delight or they can be a challenge. What's your experience of teams these days in the workplace and some of the challenges that they face?
Yeah, sure. I think what challenges teams is change and the speed of change. So, you know, it's difficult to build long-term relationships with our team colleagues because our teams change and they continue to reform through transformational change. And with the speed of change going on, it's also difficult to have time to connect well with people. And connection is a really critical underpinning key of building cohesive and collaborative teams. So the challenge really is, how can I better connect with people when there's little time and there's ongoing change?
Yeah, yeah. And just before we dig into how can we, what do you see as the challenges or the benefits for both individuals and for organizations of a high performing team versus a low performing team?
Yeah, so a low performing team is one that's really more competitive than cohesive. And what we're finding is people are working in silos, or they're just not contributing to the standard that we want. So they just haven't got the skin in the game. They're not seeing the sense or the meaning or the value of actively contributing their fullness to that team solution. So low quality relationships, low quality connections lead to low performance. That becomes quite an environment that is disengaging, that where doing enough is the norm, and that really isn't going to help teams survive for very long if we're not seeing a high desire to input and help that team succeed.
Yeah, yeah. The behaviors can really create a negative downward spiral or a positive upward spiral, can't they?
Absolutely. That's called culture, isn't it? And we all feel it. And even though you can do surveys on it, I can tell you when you walk into a team, you can usually feel it and see it as your first indicator to give you that gut feel of what's the culture like in this team. And so we all have a decision of how we want to turn up every day to work and contribute to the teams that we work with. So, do we choose to turn up in a way that is conducive, that is going to contribute and create that positive culture, that positive environment that we really want to work in, or are we doing things without being aware that is not contributing to that? So how can we connect better with each people in our team to form that cohesive desire to do well as a team?
So how can we? So if we're wanting to create that high performing team, and high performing doesn't even really need to only be about productivity, does it? It can be about the quality of relationships, the quality of interactions as well. What can people do to contribute it to that, to building that cohesion and collaboration?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. And the first thing I think is to have the time, because things change all the time, is to have the time to really stop and understand how we are aligned to the one shared vision and purpose. So it's really critical to, as a team, to know what the goal is and where you're trying to head and what are you trying to achieve. And then to also understand, and how do I contribute to that? What difference am I making? And do I feel valued? Do I see, am I heard? Am I seen? And so that I know that I am needed in this team for the team to do well. And I'm an active contributor. So it's really important sometimes maybe for the manager to set that clarity. And it sounds really straightforward, but I can tell you the number of teams with that in the business and the craziness of change, that just gets a little bit lost. And people lose that sense of vision, and it takes a long time to work out what's important to do today and what's not important. So having that sense of clarity and have that sense of belonging really helps you in that forming the team stage. So it moves you into that quickly as possible into forming the team, getting cohesive before you can then move forward to storm and perform as a high performing team.
Yeah. I think what you mentioned on that, of people can lose track of the vision when stuff's going on, that often the conversation, if it even does happen, can easily become just a one-off of, this is what we're trying to achieve, this is where we're going, this is how we're going to do it. But it's so important to come back to that regularly so that, we're refreshing ourselves of, what are we actually trying to achieve here, and how do I fit, and those sorts of questions, so that we can stay on track with where we're wanting to head or adjust accordingly.
Yeah, and so that's a consistent message, and communication sort of needs to happen regularly. It doesn't need to take a long time, but that consistent communication of this is what we're trying to achieve, this is where we're trying to head, this is where we're currently at, and keep that message clear, consistent, and persistent. And so, agile teams do that really well, is that they keep track of how we're going, where are we trying to head, is it still the same place, or has change created as to shift a little bit, and have I kept everyone up to date and communicating that over and over again.
Nice. Yeah, great. What else can people do, Marcia?
So the other thing I want to talk about, which I'm absolutely passionate about, is building high quality connections in the micro moments of our interactions in our day-to-day interactions at work. And that's from the work by Jane Dutton, who's done a lot of research on building positive relationships. And so the difference between a connection and a relationship is, what can I do in this micro moment or this interaction that I have today? And the number of interactions I have in a day with people is lots, from the time you get out of bed, get to work, have your coffee, talk to your barista, and get to your desk even, there's a whole lot of interactions there. But the ones at work, also, how can I make those interactions of a high quality rather than a low quality, which will help rapidly form the cohesion and the collaboration required in that team.
What does a high quality connection look or feel like?
So the way I describe them, based off the research, is I use a tree analogy to describe it. So a high quality connection is certainly mutual, and there's a demonstration of trust. There is a demonstration of respect when you engage with each other. You enable each other to succeed, so there's a helping capacity to it, and you create energy in the interaction. So it energizes you to want to take action and a desire to move forward. So TREE, tree, it's a really easy way to understand how can I build high quality connections. So probably the first one, if I break that down today about trust, how do you build trust, and what do trust actions look like in your team? And I think it's really important that trust, we probably all know what that is, but really, what does that look like when I interact with you each day? And it's a good conversation for a team to have occasionally, to say, well, what does trust look like today? And what do we expect? And what do we want trust to look like today? And what isn't trust? And what don't we want? We want to get less of that, and we want more of this type of behaviour and this type of actions. So maybe 3 ways to build trust is to, first of all, always start with yourself and turn up and start a conversation and start a connection with the desire to trust the other person. So you're being very generous. You're starting off with that generosity of saying, I'm going to take the first step to set the scene to make this a trusting relationship, to make this a trusting connection. So that's the first one. And that just creates that opportunity and shifts that into things are going to start off well. And I'm expecting it to start well, and I'm going to do everything I can to start this conversation well and trust the other person. Another way is to actually be reliable, to show up and just do your job. That's very trustworthy. So to be reliable, what does that look like in your job? I know for me, to be reliable is that, you do the job that people expect you to do, and you'll get it done on time, and you'll get it done to the level that's required and that they expect. Turning up on time to meetings could be a really way of demonstrating respect and building the trust of other people. It's nothing worse than losing people's time and by being late. So for some people that's more important than others, but understanding for your team, is that what trust looks like? Yes, we turn up to meetings and we're prepared and we're ready to go. That demonstrates trust in our team. Another way to demonstrate trust is to fix your mistakes. Acknowledge your mistakes and do your best to fix them, and get help if you need to fix those mistakes. And probably an interesting one that to build trust is to open up a little bit and share a little bit about yourself. When we disclose something about ourselves, we certainly are maybe a little bit more vulnerable, so it's not always the most comfortable thing to do, but you can do it in safe, small steps. So being authentic, being real, sharing a little bit about yourself helps create the type of trusting environment and trusting relationship. So you can do that when you feel safe to disclose something about yourself. So you might say, well, this is really important to me because I really value this because, and you're sharing a little bit about why it matters to you, disclosing something about yourself. You might want to say, well, what I'm really hoping to achieve with this is I would love this to happen, I would love that to happen, I think this is really critical. Again, you're disclosing why it's important to you, sharing a little bit about yourself. Or for other people, it could be being vulnerable enough to say, look, I think I need a little bit of help. I'm struggling with this. What do you think? Do you mind giving me some input? So they're all different ways of opening up, being open to disclose a little bit about yourself, and to build that sense of trust between you and the other person. Is I'm feeling safe enough to tell you this, knowing and acknowledging that you're going to take good care of that information.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily about disclosing, personal challenges or anything sort of too vulnerable. It's just about sharing something of yourself and being, both trusting and trustworthy in that exchange.
Sure. And it can be really simple things, coming in the morning and sharing a photo that you're happy to share with someone about what went well on your weekend. What's your hobby? What's your passion? What's kept you busy since the last time we saw each other?
Yeah, lovely. So essentially, you're recommending that we have a strong sense of mission and vision within the team so that people know where people fit and or where they fit and where they're going. Building those high quality connections and building trust to be able to build that as well. Would that capture it?
Sure, that's just one pathway to building high quality connections. And when we have high quality connections and we have lots of them, then that's quicker to getting more supportive, positive relationships in a work team. And when we have that, then that is the foundation to help us be more cohesive, more collaborative as a team. And that supporting positive relationships are absolutely what are required for high performance in a team.
Yeah, lovely. Marcia, thank you so much for that. You mentioned that that's just one pathway. So for people who want to dig into this a little bit more, how can they find you?
Sure, they can connect with me on my website, which is wellbeingworks.net.au, and you'll find there's more information about my Cultivating Collaboration program, which works through team cohesion and those 4 pathways to building high quality connections.
Marcia Ryan, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
Thanks so much, Adele.